I will connect with Councilmember Dyer. Other feelings on this one? Are you ready to move on? We will move to item F, a discussion on the Planning Commission 2013 work plan. Mr. Barnett.
I'm going to be up here for a while.
Bring a chair.
Yeah. You got 10 minutes. Well, yeah, but I got several things to so we'll just adjust them to fit the moment. Basically, this is just a work plan for the 2013 year for the Planning Commission. If there's anything you'd like to change or add, they'd like to know. I did add one thing, the building official membrane structures have kind of been an ongoing off and on issue with the city. So we'd like to be able to permit them or not permit them. That's what I want the Planning Commission to look at.
Did you say membrane?
Membrane, yeah, that would be like the temporary. Yeah, the temporary. The temporary structures that you see come up, you buy them at Home Depot type of thing. Anything over 200 square feet, any other temporary structure over 200 square feet requires a permit. We have nothing in the code that can make us require a permit for those yet. We have talked about it. It's gone back and forth quite a few times, and you guys have probably talked about it.
The 144, for some reason 144, was that the?
I think that was shed.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's Pacific City Code says 120 square feet for sheds. ICC code or IRC code says 200 square feet. So
I think we adopted the 200 square feet.
We adopted 200 square feet. We'll probably need to adjust that in the code this year at some point.
That's also
Well, it's done by ordinance. It's, the code is doing up there, and it should be done by
Okay.
ordinance.
Good. Anyway, that's the, I didn't want to read through the whole summary for you, unless you want me to, I can. But that's the work plan we've put together for 2013 for the Planning Commission.
Questions of Mr. Barnett? Comments about the plan? Is this something you're just seeking to notify council about, or are you seeking approval for it?
Seeking approval for it.
Okay.
They don't have anything on here about animals.
Would you like to comment about animals?
That was on there the entire time. Resolution on that.
Yes. Yes, it's on down there in the attachment part.
Further discussion from council? Move forward. Okay. We'll move to item G, View Property Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment. Mr. Barnett?
This was, this started over a year ago. It's Corliss Properties on Butte. I don't know if you guys are aware of it or not, but they had to do a comprehensive plan amendment, and they're gonna have to do a zoning change also. The comprehensive plan amendment has to go into effect first before they can do a zoning change amendment. This was brought to a public hearing at the Planning Commission. They approved it to move to council for your approval.
Questions of Mr. Barnett? Comments?
Well, this has been going on for a long time. I thought that already came before us. I know that Sloan had been in here, and to begin with, there was some conflict there, and she came in and paid all the fees and everything else. That was after the mayor went down and told them to get off their old property. But it never got dropped between the chairs, never came to council.
It never went to public hearing. It never came to the council.
Okay. That's get hell.
So I see here the recommendation is a public hearing for March 11th.
Yes.
Okay. And is that something we need a resolution for, or just a motion next week?
Just a motion.
Council pleasure. Move forward. We now move to item H, approving park board participation in 2013 event
is, we have a couple events that the park board wants to be involved in. The one thing we have a question of is how our new insurance affects the city involvement in these issues, in these things. Other than that, make sure I got the right page. Basically, as you can see, summary, the park board wants to do some, we already do an Earth Day event. We're also we have spring cleanup. We'll do we'll have some recycle dumpsters, things like that for Earth Day. And then specific days, and then, they canceled the, St. Patrick's Day parade. And one of the questions, like I said, is, and the council is how much involvement you want us to be involved in these things during this year, because of our change in insurance and our liability. I believe, I was told that the Pacific Partnerships, they do not feel they have the resources to provide insurance. And they were wondering if the city can help them in any way to provide the insurance.
Councilmember Jones?
I know I was in the, Pacific, meeting last Thursday, and, Pacific Partnership, excuse me. But do you know whether you communicate with the insurance company and see?
I've already communicated with the insurance company, and that's not a covered liability expense under our existing policy. It may have been a covered expense under PIAW, but I could not find any documentation saying that we extended liability coverage for these events for Pacific Partnership. They're a nonprofit organization. Correct. They should have their own liability insurance carrier. They can purchase an event insurance package, and it's usually less than $200 a month. But I don't know what AJG would offer them. I haven't seen the application process, but I'm happy to reach out to whoever at Pacific Partnership and see if we can't resolve some of these insurance issues. But as it stands, we don't extend our liability coverage for that because it's not a city event.
Okay, I know that both events in this case, we're talking about the park board co-sponsoring, and then I don't know where that may put us in liability issues, but it would be.
Again, I'm happy to look at it. If you can give me somebody, a point of contact at Pacific Partnership, so maybe Ken can do that after the meeting. I'm happy to reach out to them, get the application, and work with them to fill it out and see how much that would be.
Okay.
And also, in light of our self-insurance under the current policy, would suggest that even if we can extend our overall liability limits, that there probably should be event insurance, at least for the first $500,000 on it, simply because otherwise what we're extending is our own checkbook.
Well, and that was my thought too, is that as a 501c3, not a governmental organization, I wonder if the constitutional prohibition on extension of credit or gift public funds would preclude the city from, even if it was available in our policy, it would preclude us from doing that.
It very well could be. I have to look into that just a little bit more, but again, I'm happy to check into it. I haven't done so. I just looked into the issue of whether or not we were supplying public event insurance, and to my knowledge, we're not. And I was also asked to kind of look at drafting a public event application and policy so it's very clear where the city's responsibilities are versus an event organizer putting on an event. So that'll probably come back to you guys at some future point.
Frank Hatten, Hatten, he's the acting president, and Glenda White is the secretary treasurer. She's also the postmaster across the street.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will get this done.
So in addition to the insurance
wanna be sure we're,
And that's usually acceptable.
yeah.
It's just, I don't think we can give them the insurance, and I'll just make sure of that.
Concern is since we're in a different insurance issues than we have been in the past, and this is done on city property out here in the parking lot, we need to make sure that whatever we do.
Yeah, if I may, I don't mean to keep going back to my former job, but, we had a public event process at Port Orchard, and one of the things that was part of that, even though it was on city property, they were still, the event organizer was still required to have their own insurance and hold the city harmless from that. So, I'm going on that experience going into this, which is why I did talk to the insurance broker, and they were very adamant that they need to have their own separate insurance and hold us harmless.
Councilman Holden?
Yeah, the park board members, if they wanna participate, they're all citizens of Pacific, and I'm sure they wanna get involved, if they can do so as volunteers.
Correct.
So I have a question on, the Pacific, well, I guess both of these, that neither of these resolutions would imply a waiver of any permit or any permit requirements or payment of those permits, right?
Correct, that's correct.
Okay, just the fees of the.
Just the fees, yeah.
Okay. Other questions, comments from council? Council pleasure.
Move the resolutions forward.
Move forward,
Okay. If Patty, you'll let us know next week if you have the info about the insurance question. All right, Mr. Barnett, you are up again for final approval of the Pacific Shoreline Master Program.
Yeah, I don't know if you've read it, I'm not gonna go through the entire summary. We've updated the master plan. The Department of Ecology has continuously approved it with a couple minor changes. And that's pretty much it. I can show you the entire stormwater plan here. Stormwater plan's right here, if you wanna look at it.
Look at it.
I've read it.
Yeah.
Couple years on the planning commission.
It's all flood insurance.
Questions, comments, quantification?
Move forward.
Move forward? Okay. We are on to item J. Still Mr. Barnett, requesting a fund transfer for Carner Meadows project improvement.
This is a project that the developer came in, it was started on 5, and the developer came in, started the project, it was all approved, they built some houses, sold the houses, he's gone broke. City holds a $30,000, assignment of funds, and we've also placed liens on 3 of his properties that he has not sold. The thing that I was talking to our attorney about, and I was talking to Ken Luce about, was we have to finish the project. There's basically a final lift of asphalt that has to be completed, some street lights. There is a damaged storm catch basin that has to be fixed. In order for us to get the bond, we have to spend the money before we can get the bond. So what I'm asking for was a transfer of funds so that we could have the money to complete the project. I have an engineer's assessment appraisal of $46,000 to finish the project. I also have already received bids for $20,000 for the asphalt, $2,600 for we had to remove the light post bases that he put in because the light posts that InfoSource puts in, or that InfoLight puts in that we use, don't require bases, they do a direct bury. So we had to spend money, we'll have to spend money to pull those out and then spend money for the street lights. I have not received the bid yet for the street lights. But
It sounds like the project cost is gonna exceed $60,000.
it won't exceed the $60,000.
So the 46.
The 46
all
is
encompassing.
all encompassing, yeah.
Questions? George Jones.
Where's the money coming from?
The, only place that I could recommend that it would be the capital improvement fund for general administration, which is fund number 300. But nothing was budgeted, in Fund 300 because no projects were sitting out there at the time, or nobody gave me any information at the time the budget was presented and adopted. So it will require a budget amendment down the road at least. But if council wants to move forward with it, this is probably a very time-sensitive thing in order to get it done before the bond, you know, you lose your access to the bond.
When is that time?
I have not looked at the bond to see when the access is. Our one issue is the liens on the property that we will lose. At a point, we lose those. Our other issue is, completion of the project. We're getting several citizens complaints, for one. It is a problem. We have manhole covers that are sticking up in the air about 3 inches on the street. So, that's, and like I said, I haven't looked, but I believe there's one more year left on the bond, is where we're at that.
And there is money in 300.
Is there anything else earmarked for it?
Nothing at this point for that particular fund.
Go ahead, Councilman Hope.
How long does it take the bonding company to reimburse us after we send them the final bill?
That one you might have to ask Pat.
You know, I've done a couple of bonds where I've released the funds, but the 3 or 4 that I've done, they've been released back to the contractor for the bond, and they haven't come directly to the city, so I can't answer that, but Betty, to your knowledge?
You would have to go through the attorney, so I don't know. I'm sure that it will take,
I don't think it takes very long.
probably, you know, somewhere between 30 and 90 days.
So plenty of time to get it done within this budget year.
Within this budget year, if you hurry up and do the project.
When I talked to Ken, it didn't sound like it was gonna be a long period of time to get the money back from the bond. Obviously, the liens are a little bit different because the properties were in foreclosure. The bank knows that there's liens on them now, so those might take a little longer. The bank does wanna clean up the liens once the foreclosure process is done. So, but the bond, from talking to, Mr. Luce, the bond shouldn't take, I would say, like she said, maximum of 90 days. It'll be done in this budget year.
So assuming a $46,000 total project cost, we got the first 30 covered.
Correct.
Through the bond.
Correct.
When do we recover the remaining 16, when the houses sell or when the bank?
When the bank pays us.
And talk more about the losing the lien. We can just simply renew those, right?
We can renew them, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. They just expire, I believe that they're about a year, they're a year long is what they are, unless we file for adjustment, and then stay there forever. But I do know that the bank that's foreclosing, they have called me because they wanna sell the property. There's other issues with the property that they have to take care of. But I do know that they will wanna clean up the liens as soon as the foreclosure is final.
Council pleasure.
Move forward.
Okay. Item number K, city website, city clerk persona.
You have my staff report.
Oh.
I'm gonna wait for my.
You want me to read it for you?
No, I can read it from here. No, I know what I'm gonna do, so. Okay, so, you had asked me to go back and talk to the IT, personnel regarding how easy it is to update to the website, upload new pages and change information. And, they've indicated that it's fairly easy, but they recommend, and it's your guys' decision, that we pay for the first 3 months, the $300, which is a web hosting and maintenance package, and that's to allow staff a little bit more time to make significant changes to the web page design. Each department really hasn't had a lot of time to think about how that's gonna look and what information they wanna update, to make it consistent throughout, the web pages. So, and then we would revert after 3 months back to the $75 per hour, for assistance packet I also gave you a colored sample of what that front page will look like with some buttons on it. The internal pages they were still working on, so I didn't have a snapshot of that. So happy to answer any questions.
Questions before John?
What's, Betty, what is our current budget for, maintenance on the website from IT, do you know?
We
We
warned,
don't have one
You
for
don't,
the
you don't have one yet? I thought we approved.
we approved the IT,
Yeah.
but that's for the computer. And
That's
it-
for our server and our computers, it's
And
not
to
for.
transfer over to the new web-based site.
Right, so what you have is that $75 a month base fee for, the web hosting, which is about $25 less than some other outside sources can do it. They charge usually anywhere from $100 to $200 to host your website. And then the additional $300 for the first couple of months just to get our website, up and happy with what staff would like to see on the pages. And then we can revert back to the hourly rate, but, that's,
Have they talked at all about any term to the agreement? It sounds like it's okay, we can flip back month to month if we've got a big project, we can pay them $300 for the month and then get it all done and then go back to 75. Wow, okay.
yeah, we can work that. I'll confirm that, but, I'm pretty sure from talking with Rob that that's pretty much what he was thinking. As far as the term goes, I would probably marry it to the existing contract, which is, a 1-year, contract with one more 1-year increments. And then in 2014 or 2015, we'd have to redo the whole.
And we would do them both, kind of
As
the
one.
infrastructure part that Betty talked about as well as the website. Okay.
It would be one.
Other questions from council, discussion, Councilor Fenton?
I just would be much more comfortable having Auburn IT do our web hosting than any ordinary private site, because it is, of course, a publication of the city, and we have document retention issues that may give rise to expensive reconstruction if things are not properly retained. And Auburn's in the business of meeting those requirements for Auburn already, they know what they're doing.
So, I'm gonna assume then we need to have a resolution for the, let's say, a 3-month, plus after that, $75 for the remainder of the year, brought forward, and then adjustment in the budget accordingly.
That's what we did.
Report. We need to get it up. We need to get it up and running.
Yes, we do. Addie, you are also up next. Approval of professional services contract for records management and public records assistance in the city clerk personnel manager's office.
Yep, I'll keep this one short. So, during the budget process for 2013, the mayor had brought forward 3 requests, one for a part-time city administrator, one for, an office assistant for me, and then one was for the band bagger for community service. I brought all 3 of them up to the finance committee. They looked at all 3 and decided that the biggest need right now was for me to get a contract assistant to bring my files current, because they are still out of compliance, and I do have public records requests looming over me for some of the information, as well as King County has been pounding at my door asking me to provide them with certificates of insurance with all their contracts. So I'm trying to get all of that current, and this would be needed. So I've talked with a Miss Charlie Knoll, as well as one other person, and she's willing to do this for $18.50. You have a copy of her letter of interest in there, where she notes that she has 20+ years doing medical records retention. It won't be the same per se, but the idea of how to manage records is similar. And I've asked for 420 hours through the end of the year, not to exceed $7,770.
Questions of Patty? I have one, the 1850, oh, there it is, I just found it, I just need to say it out loud. language then through Mr. Lewis? Okay.
The only other thing that I would ask is, I put my name on there as the signer, but I don't know if you want it to be the mayor pro tem or the mayor or whatever. So if you wanna change that, please let me know.
Councilmember Jones?
Again, what, I'm looking for the scope of
Let's break that down, then we can turn it around. Here we go. Piece of RTI, Jerry.
Today would just be archiving records and finding all my contracts and getting them, the most current contracts into the files, as active files, and then contracts that have been expired, archived and stored, so for disposal. And then if I need assistance with, looking for records for Lucas County as well.
Do we have an agreement, disclosure part of that agreement? Because the fact that she's looking at, documents. Confidentiality.
I can have her sign a confidentiality.
I think it would behoove us, because we're talking about emails and, documents that we don't want, that may not want out in public at the time.
If we looked at, I don't think it would be instead of this, but the Secretary of State's office has in the archives division has a local government archives program. And they also, I think they also have their records retention books there, and that might be a good resource. It sounds like.
At some point in the future, I plan to contact them. I need to get my office in order first before I can even begin to go down where you're asking me to go.
Yeah. It doesn't appear that Ms. Knoll, is that how you pronounce it, Knoll? Has, because she's got medical records experience, similar to Councilmember Jones's question about the public records side, does she have experience with that?
She doesn't, but right at this point, I don't need somebody to do that. I just threw it in there in case I got another really large request, and, I just couldn't do it on my own. Primarily what they would be doing is going through documents that I needed redacting, and then making sure they were blacked out and redacted and then
And doing the logs and.
Yeah,
Okay.
doing the logs.
Okay.
They wouldn't actually be going through and finding it, and with the new system that I got, thank you very much, it's much easier to get that information and sort through it.
And off topic, that was actually finally signed in order.
Yes, it's actually installed. I had everything loaded on Friday, my first, I did 12 different searches, and, it kind of bogged it down a little bit, so, it's finished, uploading over the weekend, and I'll start working on that this week.
Okay, back to the item at hand, thank you. Other questions, comments?
Just want to, do we have I was looking for the terms, we got, 30 days, that's one that, for the case miraculously, 6 months into it, we've got our stuff together, we don't need the services anymore.
Council pleasure?
Move forward.
Okay. Now to item M, staffing realignment, Councilmember Holden.
All right. For the large part of last year, we were without public works utilities work. And I think what we need to do is eliminate that position for the time being, not permanently, but rewrite the job description, put the shop where they need as a working foreman, rather than a lead that follows the mailbox. So that's my suggestion, that we temporarily eliminate that position so we can rewrite the job description to a working foreman.
Councilmember Staggett?
I talked with the union, and they, at this point right now, they're on board unless these supervisors sees a problem with it. And then the working foreman would have more duties to do, and would be from the outside brought in, so we would not be just moving one of the good old boys up again. That's the problem we have out there, is that the leadership has all been people they worked with for years before, and all of a sudden, now he's your boss, and so they take care of each other. So and then what we would do is, we would, in the negotiations where we're gonna start in April, we would fill in that foreman job description and everything, and that would be a union position, and the union on board with this, and we would basically just eliminate, just never fill the utility lead position.
We could change the description of that position.
But at this point right now, we ought to take it out of the budget.
Councilman Sutton?
Yeah, and this actually had come up once before, but it was a filled position at the time, and somewhat analogous to the police chief. Nobody wanted to remove the position from the budget when there was somebody in that position who was, a long-time employee. So it's opportune time when the small position is vacant to go ahead and make that realignment.
So, Councilman Steiger?
And also, Gary and I met with Ken, and Ken is on board with this also.
So it sounds to me like a great referral to the Public Works Committee? Or,
Well, you got it
Right here.
You got them right here.
Yeah, I think it's a simple matter of someone writing up a budget amendment.
Since that would be a budgeted item, we need an ordinance on, budget amendment for that committee.
Well, I can put it with the rest of them. I mean, we've got a stack of budget amendments already.
wouldn't it be, it would be an amendment to the addendum on the FTE schedule, and need that taken in?
That also.
Yeah, because I don't.
But you would halt, at the same time, are you taking one of the maintenance workers to become the foreman?
No.
Or what does he say, the shop foreman?
No.
So that would just be, you would be changing out one FTE for another, right?
But at this time, we're just taking one FTE out.
Taking it out right now.
And negotiate with the union in April for the new position of foreman.
Right.
Back in.
So it sounds like the budget amendment would be simply to take the authorized FTE and the public works utility lead from 1.0 to 0.
I would recommend that be done by resolution at this point, until we do the budget amendment that we'll do when we have all of 2012 closed out.
Okay, resolution second.
So does that have the same binding effect that the budget would?
Until the budget's amended, it's a council's action, it's a council action.
Okay. Would that, kind of forget how to word my question. Should someone try to fill that position based on the budget still saying 1 there, is a resolution sufficient to show no, it's not?
In my opinion, it is, but I kind of tend to listen to what council says they want to do, and that's
So
what
let me
we do.
rephrase it.
I think
No,
that-
it is
I think
not
you may
a-
have a question for the city attorney.
Yeah.
It is not as
I'm trying to
binding.
ask her a legal question without.
Yeah, it's not as
being-
binding as an ordinance, no,
But it shows the council.
but it shows council's intent.
Okay, good. So, council's pleasure?
Move forward.
Are you gonna draft the
Yeah,
resolution?
I can draft the resolution.
Okay.
Would you be able to check with Ken too, and make sure,
Yeah.
get input from
Yes,
them?
yes, sir.
I will send him a copy of the resolution to get his comments.
Okay. Item number N, Boeing contamination, what? Oh, item number N, Boeing contamination, Ms. Burnett.
I think hopefully you can all take a look at the little map when you get a chance. We do have some, Boeing has to test wells north and east of our wells. They haven't shown any contamination yet. The plume is north of the city wells, moving north. So Algona has issues, we don't so far.
So when you said those wells don't have any indication, are you talking about our wells or
Our
the test
wells
wells?
and the test wells,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, we're constantly doing water sample tests. I spoke quite a bit today with our water manager, we did have a couple people call in. He explained the whole situation to them. Obviously, if there's anything comes up in the test wells, then it would, then it would be a concern, but so far, nothing is shown in in the test wells.
Do we have, I don't even know what they are, but do we have procedures in place of what we do if it does show up in our wells and how we perhaps shut that off, and do we have a spigot somewhere else that we turn on?
Well, we do have an interlocal with Auburn, and we can turn that on.
Is Auburn north in the plume?
Yeah, their water sources, they have separate water sources other than the plume.
And you're comfortable we've got plans in place?
We have plans in place.
Questions from council?
No, the only thing I'm a little upset about is the fact that even though the contamination was moving forward, that Boeing chose not to communicate with the city. I just heard about it by chance, the end of last Friday, but by that time I heard from you that you had heard about it. So, yeah, I was a little upset that they did not communicate with all the neighboring cities, even though we aren't at their direction impacted by it, but we have such a close water source to their property. That's a little upsetting.
Is that, did you on kind of your corner of the city hear anything?
No,
Okay.
we do not. And, I have plans to speak to somebody at Boeing, or contacted Boeing, what we can do about, in the future, if something changes, hearing sooner. We should hear before the citizens do.
Councilmember Butler?
If I'm remembering correctly, Ecology said they did send some notice out to the local mayors some time ago, but no follow-up after that.
Yeah, correct. I haven't even seen that, that letter, so.
Imagine it's somewhere in the Other questions, comments, discussions? Assume no action necessary by
No action.
Councilmember Stites.
Well, the only thing I can tell you about it is, years back, the building's gone now, but Safeway's building is part of it there. They had a spill, and they said that they had that one all contained, and they really were very aggressively checking our water constantly at that time. And then after that, they had a spill where the sheet metal shop is. And that one, they said that there was no chance of that even getting our aquifer, that it was all north. So that kind of leads me to believe a little bit, what they're finding now in Algona and South Auburn or wherever is from that spill at the sheet metal shop. Because at that time, they didn't say it was contained, but they said it was traveling north, not into our aquifer. But they were checking our aquifer on a regular basis at that time. I think both of these cases was before Chunky was here, we didn't have a water manager.
So are we doing extra tests of our water throughout this period?
We're not doing any extra tests, no. I mean, we can.
Well, I was just gonna ask if we are having to do extra, is that
Yeah, we're not.
a reimbursable expense?
Probably would be, I would think, if we needed to do extra. If something showed up in the test wells, which are far enough away from the wells to where we have some time to deal with it, then I would think we should do extra tests. But at this point, from talking to Jim, I don't think it's necessary to do any extra tests.
Okay. Further questions, comments, discussion? Okay, thank you. Last, I think, on the agenda, citizen request. Is that the gorilla thing?
Yeah, that's the gorilla thing.
All right.
I really didn't know what to do with this one, so I figured I'd bring it to you. Citizen Richard Hildreth has requested that we return the Ivan the gorilla photo, picture, and art back to him so he can return it to the person that donated it to the city. My feeling, and of course it's up to council, but my feeling is that the citizen that donated it to the city came in and asked for it back, then that would be the way to go. But I was not gonna make this decision on my own.
It's been my experience that if I donate something to somebody or, some other entity, I'm not gonna get it back.
Councilmember Pleasant.
My impression is that they consider it to have been surplus since it was taken down and no longer on display, so they want it back rather than having it thrown away.
It's not gonna be thrown, it hasn't been thrown away, but.
No, I'm just saying, if it's surplus, they don't want it tossed.
I think Ms. Weech has a comment.
Fourscore and 7 years ago, I believe at a park board auction, Skip Priest, who is now the mayor of Federal Way, won the gorilla picture and donated it to the city. So there's probably some sort of resolution accepting it or, for the city of Pacific. And I believe Mr. Hilder's intention was to return the artwork to Skip if he wanted it, but that's just by way of background information.
Other comments?
I don't actually remember, unless it was, I don't recall that the council ever did actually approve acceptance of that donation. I'm not sure if it actually happened.
Donation.
Yeah, we had quite a few donations in the past that were not properly accepted under the RCW, so.
So, I kinda like your suggestion of if the donor would like it back and the city's not using it, perhaps the donor could request it and then consider at that point.
I think it's on the back of the mayor's flow chart.
Contrary from council? Does that give you some?
It gives me some, where you go.
Okay.
Well, it's just like selling your car and wanna ride the back seat.
I wouldn't want their gorilla. They have no other business unless Councilmember Pleasant.
Just one item I forgot to add to the agenda is our treasurer has been good enough to pass around the latest overtime hours for the police department. We didn't have anybody working 60 hours of overtime in the latest pay period. The worst we had was 39 hours of overtime.
In a 2-week period?
Yeah. Which is a significant reduction from the previous pay period, but still significant amount of overtime. And another officer with 26 hours of overtime. So it's bad, but not as bad as it was the prior pay period.
But it's a little bit higher than the projected claims of less than 5%.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's quite a bit over the 5% level. And I don't know if it's entirely coincidental that it appears that infractions are down this month, as if perhaps they're trying not to burn everybody out working overtime.
You don't have to tell the mayor about that, right?
Overtime still. I just found out today, can't run a background check on one of our officers. So I made the prediction that we were gonna lose another officer, and my prediction is becoming a reality, that they're starting a background check on one more officer, which will bring us down to 6 positions. I see no reason why they won't hire me.
Can you start predictions the other direction?
Can you tell us which officer's leaving?
I'll wait till he's officially informed.
Councilmember Sykes.
I have passed Massey to confirm this or what, but I understood in the last few days, we've had like 3 car thefts.
Well, the good thing is we had one self-arrest over the weekend.
So,
Yeah, but that takes up hours.
That's where the 39 hours come in.
These all happened in normal patrol areas if we had bad officers.
Well,
Not saying 100%.
what's happening is we have a big concern because of the increase in numbers, the theft, the bothers us. So what we're doing is we're adding a swing shift, but it's only gonna be when officers are available to work that swing shift, and they have to have at least 1 full day rest that week. And we have to do something to bring the numbers down. We have to do something there, so that will be our effort to bring the numbers down by adding another officer as long as he gets that full day rest period. And it'll be a 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 4 o'clock in the afternoon up into the main hours at night.
What time is of the day that is Brian?
That'd be a great chance for you to have it in that. Is there other business of the council?
I've got one other thing. Where are you going to get this office?